War is brutal, cruel, painful, costly, heartless, hopeless. There is nothing good about war. And when it comes to world wars, which involve almost every country in the world, the destruction caused by them is immeasurable. Welcome to my channel, War Chronicle. And today we'll be answering the question, what would happen if there was a world war? Let's get into it. As far as destructive power goes, World War I changed the way warfare is done. For the first time, more people died in World War I from diseases like the flu than from actual combat. An estimated 70 to 85 million people died during the war. For example, the atomic bomb was developed and used against Japan during World War II. The United Nations was formed in 1945 to help maintain peace and security. The weapons would be deadlier, the fighting would be more intense, and the casualties would be even greater. The US has the largest economy and military in the world. Let's say that World War III would start with a small conflict between two countries. Perhaps a neighboring country would feel threatened by the conflict and would declare war on one of the original two countries. Countries would be pushed to the brink of destruction and total annihilation. The cost of the war would be staggering. Entire generations would be lost to the fighting. But it would also be an opportunity for humanity to come together and face our greatest challenge yet. At the end of the day, we can only hope that we would emerge from such a conflict stronger and more united than ever before. Economies would be in ruins, and the environment would be devastated. The world would never be the same again. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my other videos on the channel. Thank you for watching. Soon, there would be multiple countries on each side, and the fighting would become more intense. As the war drags on, casualties would start to mount. Millions of people would be killed or injured. Cities would be destroyed and entire industries would be wiped out. The economy would start to suffer as trade routes are cut off and resources become scarce. People would have to make difficult decisions about how to allocate their dwindling resources. Governments would fall, and new ones would rise in their place. Some countries might even collapse completely. Perhaps a border dispute would lead to violence, or a small group of terrorists would attack a major city. Within hours, both sides would mobilize their militaries and start attacking each other's infrastructure. Missiles would rain down on both countries. The war would last for several years, maybe even decades. A world war would be a true test of humanity. It would push us to the brink of destruction, but it would also bring out the best in us. It would show us what we are capable of when we put our minds to it. We would develop new technologies and strategies to defeat our enemies. We would also show great courage and compassion in the face of unimaginable adversity. Within days, both countries would declare victory and withdraw their troops. But this is only the beginning. They would likely form an alliance with other countries against the other side. China would also be a key player in a world war. With its large population and growing economy, China would likely want to expand its influence around the world. Russia would likely join China and the US in a world war. Russia has the largest landmass and nuclear arsenal in the world. They would likely want to protect their interests in Eastern Europe and the Middle East if there was a world war. It's likely that the European Union and NATO would also be involved. The EU is a group of 27 countries in Europe. They would likely fight together to protect their shared interests. We can look at the history of the world for clues as to how a world war would play out. Many experts believe that World War III will be started by a single event that could be a terrorist attack. The use of a weapon of mass destruction, or the invasion of one country by another. Once the first shot is fired, things will quickly spiral out of control. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged as superpowers and the Cold War began. This led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of civilians and marked the beginning of the nuclear age. World War II also led to the Holocaust, the systematic persecution and murder of Jews and other minorities by the Nazis. This was one of the darkest chapters in human history. World War II also saw some acts of great bravery and heroism. For example, the Allied forces who stormed the beaches of Normandy on June 6, 1944, and the soldiers who fought in the Battle of Stalingrad, which was one of the largest and most brutal battles in history. World War II was a global conflict that involved all of the major powers of the world. The war began with Germany's invasion of Poland. On September 1, 1939, the United Kingdom and France declared war on Germany 2 days later. The Soviet Union joined the war in June 1941 after Germany invaded it. The United States entered the war after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. World War II ended with the defeat of the Axis powers. Germany surrendered on May 8, 1945, and Japan surrendered on September 2, 1945. World War I also saw the use of tanks, poison gas, and airplanes for military purposes for the first time. But what really made World War I such a nightmare was the stalemate that occurred on the Western Front. For 4 years, British, French, German, and other troops fought over just a few miles of land between Belgium and France. Millions were lost with little territorial gain. World War I lasted from 1914 to 1918. It was one of the deadliest conflicts in history, taking an estimated 40 million lives. The Treaty of Versailles, which ended World War I, placed most of the blame for the war on Germany and its allies and forced them to give up territory, disarm, and pay for the damage they had caused. The treaty also created new countries like Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia. It reshaped Europe and set the stage for World War II. World War II, which lasted from 1939 to 1945, was even more deadly than World War I during World War II. New weapons and technologies were developed that led to unprecedented levels of destruction. The end of World War II brought about a new world order. World War III would be unlike any war before it. If there was a world war, the United States would be one of the main players. So let's imagine what would happen if there was a world war. As the weeks and months go on, other countries would start to get involved. As the war enters its final stages, the fighting would become even more brutal. There would be an estimated 100 million deaths, maybe more. Dozens of countries would cease to exist. Entire cities would be wiped off the map. A world war would be a tragedy on a scale that we can hardly imagine. What do you think would happen if there was a world war? Let me know in the comments below.